Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. My name is Dabney and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. Today we have a new guest, somebody that I'm hoping that I'm introducing to a lot of you. He started on YouTube. He started his astrology YouTube podcast at the exact same time that I did. And just coincidentally, he popped into my feed a few months ago and I started watching his work and I was like, this guy's great. We need to have him on. So his name is Joe Theodore. So welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so I'm going to put
Nice.
Joe's podcast, his YouTube information below. You're going to love Joe's voice. It's very soothing and relaxing, but he has great information. And so he does use a different house system than I do, but it doesn't matter. We have the same information, and I often resonate with his teachings. And so I invited him on today to talk about the eclipse that's coming up on September 21st. And he's been doing a lot of good content around this whole eclipse season. So I highly recommend that if you want to dig deeper and you want to hear even more, and kind of look back on like the September 7th eclipse, he's got some great content. So let's set the stage. I've been doing a lot of things on the eclipses. I'm sure people are probably like, enough with the eclipse, but September's kind of insane. September is the big month of the rest of this year in a lot of ways. And that doesn't mean there won't be reverberations from the things that happen in September, but I feel like September is the one that's kind of shaking things up. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we live in a time right now where big endings and big beginnings is probably what's on the menu the most. And every client that I talk to are going through major transitions in their life. And I think when we look at eclipses, we have to very much look at what is ending there and what is beginning. Because I feel with eclipses, sometimes they could be in our face, like pretty loud. And other times I feel they could just be very subtle and intuitive. I feel eclipses kind of just always nudge us it's like a life path activation that I think we all know is going to shake things up, but how loud that is kind of determined on a lot of things. But I think when we look at the world, of course, we could see how loud the astrology is. And I think that's what I like telling people as well. Not that we have to dive deep into politics or anything crazy going on in the world, but I think when we really want to check the pulse on the archetypes and just some things playing out, we can look to what's going on, like collectively as well. And I think this eclipse season is, oh my God, some of the most powerful I've seen in a while. And I think the new moon in Virgo, we had August 23rd. When I saw that that was a 0 degree new moon, that critical degree, and now we're going to have an anaretic degree solar eclipse with Saturn, which is again the the other massive player on why the intensity I think is so sobering. And that's something I've been saying a lot in my recent talks is the sobering nature of this eclipse season. And yeah, and then depending on what the Pisces stories were in all of our lives, I think dictates maybe what reviews or reflections we might be going through, or maybe some sobering wake up call moments of some reminders, perhaps. And I think this solar eclipse coming up will be much more potent than the lunar that we just had, mainly because that opposition is so strong, in my opinion. And something else, I just recorded a video actually for my channel coming out, I think in a couple of days from now, and Mercury's going right opposite Neptune. I think Mercury will be at 5 degrees Libra, going opposite Neptune. So, a couple of degrees past an exact opposition. But considering Mercury is the ruler of this eclipse, I think that's very significant as well. So, if we can all understand maybe a little bit more deeply what the Neptune story is in the Aries part of our life, that part of our birth chart, whatever, theme of life that is for you, I think that's going to be kind of interesting because there's something very mercurial about the Aries part of our life, I think that is somehow linked to this. And I'm still trying to gauge it myself. But I
Okay.
think that's going to be, I think that's going to play out in the world stage in a big way too. I think
When is
we're
that happening?
the opposition to
Mhm.
Neptune. Well, I think Mercury enters Libra, I think in a few days from now. And then on the solar eclipse Sunday, it's well,
So right before. So this whole
yes.
week leading up has a lot of aspects, has a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
things popping off. Mars is popping some stuff off right
Yeah.
before and right after. And I don't think this one was really on my radar that Mercury is opposing Neptune, which to your point is very interesting because it is the ruler of the upcoming eclipse. The thing that I love that you talked about, because I feel the exact same way, was it was not officially an eclipse, that August 23rd new moon, but I feel like it was kind of the kickoff of this eclipse season. And I think that when I reflect back on the past month since that, I did a video that a lot of people watched on my channel about how like I had all sorts of pet drama and like I had a cat
Hmm.
run away and I had another cat get sick, like, and it was all sort of just all at once. And that was very and that kind of was planting seeds for the unfolding of the things that were going to come out, like the emotions got brought up very intensely. And this whole month has been a month of like I emailed someone that my mind is popping off. Like it's like I see things in ways that I hadn't seen before. And I'm
Hmm.
getting new insights in ways that I never have before. And so, and I don't, and I think that that's a lot of the energy right now, especially like, Virgo energy. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And it's so it's like the way we think, the stories we tell ourselves, these things are coming to light in a new way and coming into our consciousness. Have you seen that in your practice or in your own experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, something else I look at is where's Mercury in your chart too, because I feel that's also that always plays into where big transits are happening, considering Mercury rules Virgo. So I feel when I reflect on my life and I go, oh, well, look where Mercury is in my chart, that theme of life is also just getting super activated. But yeah, I mean, I feel everyone I talk to is going through just some kind of metamorphosis on a level they've never seen before.
Right.
And and it's just, yeah, it's just a wild time to be alive. Like sometimes I get giddy because I'm like, yeah, I know things are falling apart and things are crazy at times, like around the world. But at the same time, I think there was an old hashtag on Twitter when I used to be on there, astrologer good. Like that was kind of a thing where everyone was like, no matter if something bad happens or whatever, if the astrology just keeps manifesting, like that proves our craft furthermore. But but yeah, I mean, I feel the clarity and the insights are alive and well in many, many ways.
Yes,
And
so this Mercury
yeah,
opposing Neptune. Mercury is, thoughts and you in the sign of Libra is about
yeah,
balance and justice. And it's opposing Neptune, which can be our imagination or our delusions or stories that we tell ourselves. And so there can be this sort of illumination of where we need to see things from both sides, not just our own side. Or there can be just a real tug of war where that's not available to us either, where we're
sure.
like we're taking one side over the other, and we're not seeing how to integrate these two energies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for us, this opposition, I mean, because I look at oppositions and squares as opportunities for deeper growth of some kind. Like people get freaked out. They come to me all the time and they go, hey, like this square is freaking me out. This opposition is the reason why I booked a reading with you. And I'm like, well, listen, if we just had trines all over the place in our chart, we would just be eating potato chips on the couch all day, probably. You know, those squares and oppositions are what make us get up and do some work and get disciplined and solve problems. And I think this opposition, this Mercury opposite Neptune, I just think it's timely for this eclipse to maybe play into some of the stuff in Aries. That's all. And I think when we look at the world after some recent events, like, I mean, that's something else. That's something I sort of came into my mind this morning, actually, was like the twisting of words and the amount of illusion that I think is going to be amped up in a political way. Not that we have to get into that, but I'm saying like
It's a
it's
safe
just
space to
tracking.
do that. So
Yeah,
just so you
yeah,
know, but no pressure.
yeah. No, of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, details. Yeah, we don't need to go into details about things, but just generally speaking, like, I mean, I think the the war of language is just so incredibly potent right now, and I think this eclipse is going to maybe possibly bring more of that illusory speech. I think the twisting of words is going to be very alive and well, I think, over the next couple of weeks. So, I mean, that's something we can just track. I think as astrologers, astrology enthusiasts out there, people who are doing their homework and want to see how some of this stuff manifests, yeah, the world and some of the stuff going on in the news right now specifically, because I think this is a beautiful kind of representation of a lot of things that we can track.
Yeah, the gaslighting and the hypocrisy right now are nothing I've ever seen. And what's interesting about it to me personally is that because it's been so dramatic and so obvious, that in some ways it feels like it's giving me permission to not care. And it's almost like going too far. So
Hmm.
especially with this Virgo energy, this 29 degree is endings. And so there's something about a story ending. There's something about the 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 thing that's been making us frightened and fearful loses its grip on us if we choose to allow it to go, to fade away. And that's one of the things that I've been working with, is the idea and the notion that no more can we be frightened of lies. Like, we have to kind of recognize and call a spade, and like we need to do things differently, is a little bit of like the things that have been coming up for me. And also it's so amazing how people have created an alternate world in which their ideas are not very popular, their policies are not very popular, but they invested so much in a media landscape, and they've invested so much energy and like their thoughts about what they've put out into the world, that they have manifested what they wanted through that commitment. And sometimes I think that we need to do the same thing. We have to really commit to our values and our belief systems. And we have to take a leap of faith and not continue to play out the same tired story that brings fear and worry and, criticism and, all the Virgo things that can just sort of spin you around, and you don't end up manifesting success.
Yeah, and that's why I think in a collective sense, I mean, Virgo is all about systems, right? And I mean, I feel I've been kind of coining this eclipse season with Virgo as endings that seed new order. And
Mhm.
I think also this can be symbolic for, like, again, us kind of beginning to all maybe see a little bit more clearly through the veil, because trust me, I mean, I have an area, I live in an area where there's all types of thought, beliefs, whatever. And more and more people, I think, just are starting to see through like the veil of things. And like, Lord knows, I mean, the propaganda machine of the world is very loud. And I still think that a lot of these outer planet transits for the next year or two are going to be very, very loud still and propelling, like, just there's like this battle between what is going to kind of rule the world in a way. And I think this Virgo intellect is on both sides, on any all sides of the aisle, whatever we want to say. Like, everyone's got their Virgo energies just trying to organize and structure some kind of new system for themselves. Now, when it comes to, I think, us maybe becoming more empowered in all this, I really feel when Jupiter gets into Leo next year and when the nodes change signs, not to talk too far ahead, but I think people need to understand how important that is because that's when, I mean, we really enter more of a fire year. And because if you think about it, we're really in a earth and water eclipse cycle. Then we're going to be in a fire and air eclipse cycle next year, you know, going into the following months. But I think this seeding, this endings that seed new order, that is, this is just so important for us to continue to navigate and to, again, like you were saying something about formulating our beliefs around the world of illusion at times. And how are we going to stay strong and what we're trying to mold for ourselves, perhaps, you know, because that's really what matters most.
Yeah. That I think that that's been my biggest learning over the past several months is really looking at the astrology and kind of looking at, in some ways, how beautiful it is, like that it's delivering these like right on time. Like it makes me realize like how much of this is just sort of destined. Like it is all unfolding. And the only thing that we can do to have a better outcome is to focus on our own consciousness and to focus on our own lives. And that doesn't mean that if you are individually called to be a bigger player in the world, you'll know it. You've been tapped, right? Like,
Sure.
but
Sure.
you know, Mondani, he was tapped, right? Like there's people that like they know what their role is supposed to be. And if you're one of those people, I encourage you to lean into that. However, a lot of people are just getting burned out, scared, worried. It's like the other, when is the other shoe gonna fall? There's that kind of living on edge feeling when you're living amongst chaos and of any kind, right? And so I think there is this sort of unsettled feeling, but part of that unsettled feeling, I think, is to strip away our delusions, to strip away what no longer has been serving anybody on either side of the aisle, frankly, in order to come back together. Because we have to get rid of this divisive propaganda that is being played and playing us off of one another versus seeing things for how they really are. And the only way we can see things for how they really are is to do the work inside, do our own work, and to shed the things that we no longer need to carry with us. I have a Chiron workshop coming up on Saturday,
Nice.
20.
Nice.
Yeah, and because I'm trying to like think, how can we heal during this time? Because this eclipse is about healing, in my opinion. Pisces is the north node, and Pisces is about healing. It's about empathy. It's about beauty. It's about art. It's about music. It's about, coming home and relaxing. It is not about like being frightened and worried and trying to control things that we can't control, because this whole collective energy is happening whether we are spun up about it and or not. So information about my Chiron workshop will be below, but the whole point of that workshop really is going to be, what are the stories that we tell ourselves that have held us back from healing and giving our gift out into the world.
Sure. And that's actually, I mean, Chiron and Aries, I mean, I used to talk about that more. I think when I first started my channel, um, April 2024, I think is when I started it. I talked about Chiron and Aries a lot because I was like, wow, that really is showing us a lot of the wounds of the world. Everybody's fighting for their identity. Political parties are fighting for their identity. The right wing wants their identity to be this. The left wing wants their identity to be this. Everybody, the culture wars left and right. I mean, this has just been the flavor. Nations fighting wars overseas for their identity. Ukraine fighting for their identity. Like Chiron and Aries to me, uh, has been a lot about that, you know, and it's not over. I mean, I think Chiron goes into Taurus next summer, 2026. It'll make its first entrance into Taurus. And I think that's something to be celebrated. And I think that'll be a big conversation for a lot of astrologers, hopefully, as 2026 into 2027 happens. Because, yeah, I mean, if we think about what Taurus is all about, I think that can really be a beautiful, less aggressive path of understanding wounds and getting out of the fire of Aries. I think for Chiron will be a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I think that's hopeful. And I always like to encourage people that things always swing the opposite way. So this is just a moment in time, and the transits are trying to show all of us, especially the outer planets, during this crazy historic shift. They're all trying to show us, like, wow, look at look at this wrecking ball, look at this massive problem that we're faced with. We need problems to solve them, plain and simple. And this is just one of the big problems we're in right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so let's look at this eclipse like
yeah,
on a personal level, like the advice that you are, and obviously look and see where 29 of Virgo will be in your individual charts if you can figure that out. That will help you to understand what house it's in, will give you some of the flavor, some of the themes that we're working on, but you know, kind of from a bigger picture, you know, like I said, I'm telling people that this is a time to sort of like discover what our old stories were and let them go, reframe them in a more, you know, kind of Piscean faith-based way versus controlling up in the head, you know, the conditioning. What are some of the things on a personal level that you're telling people to approach this kind of dramatic eclipse with, knowing that it has Saturn in opposition?
yeah. Well, the South Node is what's transiting Virgo, right?
Mhm.
So for me, and the third decan of Virgo, which we can talk about, that's something, as you know, I talk a lot about on my channel. So the third decan of Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So this eclipse has decanic dignity, as we say. And for me, I take the decans very seriously. I mean, they predate horoscope astrology, natal astrology, and they are magical. I mean, they're still a mystery to many astrologers that work with them. But I think the more you study them with lunations, especially, and that's something I kind of specialize, I guess, in for my main tracking, you know, observing where full moon and new moons are falling and what decan they are. And then, of course, the Golden Dawn Hermetic Order, which was a Hermetic order from the early 1900s, linked tarot cards to these decans. And that's what I kind of delineate as something, as a clue of maybe something we can maybe look closer at when it comes to what this eclipse can be all about for us. And and again, because we're dealing with the South Node, I look at the South Node as a place where things must be released and dissolved, where the North Node is all about growth. This is more about life path. Like, okay, this is the focus we need to really pay attention to for growth forward. But there's something in Virgo that needs to dissolve, or the understanding of how powerful endings are simultaneously while there is a birthing, you know, because we are dealing with a solar eclipse. But that third decan is important because we are dealing with, I believe, an association that involves legacy and things that stand the test of time. And I'm saying that because the tarot card that is associated with this decan is the Ten of Pentacles. So for anyone out there who wants to study this stuff, you know, it's very easy just to search Golden Dawn, Minor Arcana, decans, and you can see the order of all the tarot cards that have been linked to these decans and how they tell a story, essentially. Earth sign, fire sign, air sign, water signs. And this third decan of Virgo, to me, is again symbolic, another symbolic signature for the end. The last card of the Pentacle suit, the 10, we have an anaretic degree, last degree of Virgo, another massive symbolism for me of like, wow, there is some kind of ending and dissolving that must be understood for there to be this birthing forward. And again, that 10 of Pentacles, I hold on to dearly because to me, this is, we need to understand what are we doing in our life that we need to release, but what can we replace or what is on the horizon in that Virgo energy that we can, something that stands the test of time. I mean, that's kind of how I've been telling everybody to look at it. Like, what are you going to build? Or what are you building that lasts beyond you? You know? And I think that looks different for everybody.
Mhm.
But I mean, the South Node being there, there's a dissolving that must be taking place first. And everybody that I talk to, honestly, every client that I have in readings, there is I don't want to say there's a problem that everyone's having in Virgo, but there is a realization of, wow, there is some old chapter that I know is like fizzling out. And some people know what's beginning, or they know what is now coming into focus. So it's not like dissolving and, oh my God, I'm left in the dust and have no clue what's going on. Some people that I talk to, me included, like I for sure can see the destiny and the life path unfolding in the Virgo part of my life. But I very much know the old chapter that has been dissolving away now. And for me, I look at stuff that I'm going through and I go, wow, like I had to go through all of that to now finally like release it. If I need to grieve any part of it, I will. But that 10 of Pentacles energy is just showing me a path forward of, wow, I think that that direction now is something that will stand the test of time. So I'm really like seeing that manifest. And that's why I encourage people to kind of like really dive a little bit deeper, because I feel we're all like looking for that legacy, you know?
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So definitely follow Joe if you're interested in what he's saying here, because he's gonna have a class in January about the tarot and the decans. And it sounds utterly fascinating. It's one of the things that I enjoy because he does do a different kind of astrology than I do. And I love oracle cards and tarot cards, but I don't really incorporate them into my astrology in the same way. So that's kind of cool. So we talked about sort of on the more personal level. So let's think about the collective level. And we don't have to mention names or
Oh boy. I
specific
know I have to
countries.
watch my tongue. I get in trouble.
Yeah, that's fine. But I think like
Yeah.
collectively, there is a consensus that new information is coming out every day. People are seeing things from a different perspective, but also this is about endings, right? So you don't have a crystal ball, just like I don't have a crystal ball. So but is there anything on the collective that you think people should be on the lookout for?
Involving this eclipse.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, the video I put out recently, a lot of people were saying, "Oh my God, Joe, you predicted this, you predicted that." And I don't claim to, do that kind of
Yeah, we
stuff.
don't have we don't
Yeah.
have crystal balls. Like that's just
Yeah,
not.
of course, of
We
course.
know the
But
energy and like the symbolism.
right, right. So for me, again, anaretic degree, solar eclipse, we're going opposite Saturn, sobering moments. Again, a time to get sober, um, a time to get real, a time to commit, to get disciplined. But again, like I kind of had a feeling there was going to be perishing, you know? And again, back to that third decan. Classically, when you look at the decans from like the Renaissance period, there was a whole magical system that was being built around the decans of that in that time, Renaissance period, Middle Ages. And some of the images, these artwork, these art pieces that were created to for all the decans. And the third decan of Virgo was always depicted as something quite gruesome, to be honest,
Mm.
something involving the withering away, even old age, sickness, and, even some more gruesome type of images as well. But again, the symbol is endings, this idea of returning to the soil. And look what happened a couple days ago,
Right.
right? We had this assassination, and like I still feel that there's potentially maybe more of that in some way, shape, or form. I think there could be an escalation of things that maybe bring that. I don't know who or how that's going to look, but I think like that in itself, what happened to him was spot on already prior to this eclipse. But other than that, I mean, again, like we were talking about with Mercury going opposite Neptune, like I think the rhetoric and the spinning around just all of this is going to take so many different twists and turns. And I also think, how do I say this? Um, I think a lot of people are waking up again, that sobering word that I kept using in a lot of my videos recently. Like we can see how one camp is reacting to this figure's demise and how the other side is reacting to this figure's demise. And what comes of this? I mean, there is a beautiful opportunity, I think, for there to be uh some kind of a reconciliation, but at the same time, I feel this is not going to do that. I
I
feel
don't think
this
this
is,
is the
yeah,
time. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
right after, so this eclipse is opposite Saturn.
yes,
And so Saturn is sobering. Saturn is, get on with it. We have to do what's right. We have to, we have to
sure.
face the consequences of our actions. So there is something not only with the endings, but Saturn has this kind of this the similar, it's in the end degrees of Pisces again, right?
Yeah,
And so, Saturn has already gone back into Pisces. Neptune's going to go back into Pisces. And then I think in November, Uranus is going to go back into Taurus. So we're going to be kind of in the next few months going back over territory that we were in last year and the year before to re-examine what we did, what were our choices, and were they the right choices, and do we see things differently now that we've experienced this other energy. And so I think that it's going to be kind of people's, to your point, like wake up call. There's going to be consequences with that Saturn eclipse, but then there's also going to be, I think, the several month opportunity to then really really see where we have played a role in what's happening, what's unfolding.
yeah,
Do you agree with that? Or what would you, because that's an interesting thing to me, that like we had all these new fresh energies and then like record skip, like now we've got to go back for a few months and like it's all in the end degrees of everything. So again, we're just like endings, endings, endings. And so is it like final endings? Like, is it, is it places where we can let go of things, that releasing things finally in like a healthy way too, because
yeah. I mean, we're going
early
to be having
on.
a lot of, yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot of, I mean, here's something hopeful. We're going to have a lot of grand water trines as the fall comes, you know? So, I mean, because there's going to be all the personal planets are going to come into Scorpio. So a good friend of mine actually made a video today, SJ Anderson. So he just put out a video, fall 2025, something grand water trines, and it's a
I'll
great
check
video to
him
watch.
out.
Yeah, but he talked about, because Mars is going to go into Scorpio the day after, or the day after this eclipse. Yeah, on the 22nd.
It's then
And
we see that Mars Pluto.
yeah, so we're gonna have that immediate square again. So we'll have to get our popcorn and see what's gonna happen on the world stage for that.
Dramatic few
But
weeks here.
yeah, possibly, yeah. But I mean, again, I think that to me that might be really lovely as we sink into the fall. I mean, for us at least, this is going to be lovely. The grand water trines, because again, we'll have Mars come in, then Mercury's going to come in, and then Venus will find her way in at some point. I think maybe before the new year's up, but again, all of the late degrees of Pisces will get activated. Jupiter, before it goes retrograde, is all going to get activated in that beautiful grand water trine. So for me, that's going to probably play into maybe the beginning of the meditating that we're all going to be naturally doing after all these outer planets have showed us a preview of what they're capable of in our life, and on the world stage. So I mean, I think things might calm down a little over the winter, maybe,
I agree.
you know, but and then again, when we have February roll around, when Saturn and Neptune conjunct their 0 degree moment, I think on Valentine's Day. So, hey, that's pretty fun, I guess. And then April 26th is when Uranus gets back into Gemini. So, again, I keep telling all my clients, like, hey, just, everything you've been contemplating, thinking about, changing, and you feel like you're still stuck in the mud or you're in this liminal space in between two worlds. I said you're just starting to psychically see like into things that are going to get a lot faster and move a lot quicker when the spring rolls around again. And again, that's going to set us up for Jupiter going into Leo. And I think that's when we really see a lot of change, like really, really get itself going. Because I mean, we're going to have so much fire activation next year. Saturn and Neptune are not going back into Pisces, they're locked in to Aries. Jupiter and Leo, the nodes change signs late August or August 2026. And then we immediately start having eclipses. So it's going to be so I think we all have to be easy with ourselves is my point from this point forward, like through the winter into the spring, and to again really just sort of get clear and focused in an analytical way too. Like I mean, I'm a very spiritual man, and I feel like it's important to sink in and to connect, if you will, with whatever. But at the same time, I feel we all need to be sharp intellectually right now. Like I think it's very important, and that's something else I think the Virgo energy, just archetypally in the field, is asking of us. Especially the Pisces Virgo story, because there is this element of escapism or again kind of going off into fantasy land sometimes with Pisces energy. But again, like you said, to your point, there is a healing that the Piscean wants to offer us too. But the Virgo dissolving and the birthings into new territories, or again this seeding into these endings that seed new order, this new order is what we need to be sharp with and understand more clearly, and that can bleed into other parts of our life, right? And again, where Mercury is in your chart, that story is going to be connected to the eclipse, so that could be a clue for people to kind of just figure out where's Mercury in your birth chart, because I think those stories are all linking together here. But yeah, this will be a winter, I think, of meditating, reflecting, and maybe getting clearer on a lot of the stuff we've already been going through. You know,
Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of a time for hibernation and integration, maybe.
yeah. And then with Jupiter retrograde, I mean, that's going to be Jupiter retrogrades every year. For a couple of months. And to me, wherever Cancer is in your life, that's huge. I think Jupiter in Cancer has been like that hidden blessing amongst the chaos. And again, to the grand water trine coming, through the fall, I think that's also really important to understand. Like how is Jupiter interacting with the Scorpio, the Piscean, to the Cancer part of your natal chart. And that retrograde will be, I think, very important furthermore in maybe getting maybe some of those deeper emotional, intuitive understandings.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah,
that grand trine, if since we have like all three, Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer, ultimately water is about healing. Ultimately water
yeah,
is about getting in touch with our authentic emotions. At least, Scorpio definitely reveals things, that reveals secrets so we can heal. It really gets to the bottom of things. Okay. So before we, kind of start to wrap up a little, I wanted to talk to you
sure.
about the work that you do and explain. Can you tell me, like, no, I can't explain it briefly, but can you explain
Yeah.
the deckens very briefly? If not, no worries. I'm curious myself. And then like the tarot card associations, because I think that's fascinating
Yeah.
when you do that on
Yeah.
your channel.
Sure. Well, first of all, I am an astrologer first and foremost. I'm not a tarot reader, even though I know how to read tarot and I've been studying symbolism for most of my life, of course. But the decans are subdivisions of the zodiac. And when you use whole sign houses, because this stuff originated during primarily a period where whole sign houses were the thing.
The
But
standard. Yeah.
predating Hellenistic astrology, we're talking about ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, where the decans were really all about tracking time. We're looking at three subdivisions of each zodiac sign, 10 degrees each. And the Egyptians actually made, if you think about 36 decans, 360 days was the original calendar year for the Egyptians. And that's kind of how they tracked things and would time certain things. So so again, from that ancient time period, and there's so much more to that, but
Yeah,
and
I
I'm going to
asked
teach
for
it in my
the
course.
elevator
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pitch.
No, for sure, for sure. But I mean,
You can
as
take a
time,
class in January to really
yeah,
dig into
yeah,
it.
for sure. But as time went on, they just evolved into more magical traditions, if you will.
Okay.
And by the early 1900s, when tarot kind of really became more than just a card game, 100 years before that, because tarot started as a card game, obviously, from like Italy and all that part of the world. But a hermetic order called the Golden Dawn, they did rituals and stuff like that. And they took the minor arcana and just assigned them each to a particular decan based on their elements. So pentacles for earth signs, wands for fire signs, cups for water signs, and swords for air signs. So it's said that there's now an infusion of the tarot consciousness with the decan consciousness. And again, all those ruling planets that rule each decan now have an association to a card. And it's brilliant because you can look at your chart and look to see where your sun is. What decan is your sun in? Go look up the tarot card involved in that and maybe study it and see how is the expression of that minor arcana. How does that maybe play a role into a flavor of how your sun sign has expressed in itself throughout your life? And that's why some people say like there could be three Leos in front of you, but each of their sun could be in one of those three decans, three different decans for Leo. So it's really fascinating to study and to observe, the associations with all of that.
Amazing. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, yeah, I've been doing a lot more studying on the Sabian symbols. And so I'm
Nice.
getting to see like how that sort of is sort of a magical unfolding and like a deepening of my knowledge. And this seems like just another way, especially if you're learning astrology, that it just helps sort of deepen your understanding of those specific signs and the phases of those signs.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Very
it's
cool.
it's very esoteric, but and I think we can use all of this stuff as an element of self-transformation as well. I love drawing a card in the morning, for example, and just reflecting on it, you know? And I
Yeah.
think when we observe, for example, like this eclipse, we can go, oh, wow, what card is associated to this decan? Like what is going on in the world? And all we're seeing is things involving legacy. That 10 of Pentacles card. I mean, again, not to bring up the assassination thing again, but I mean, this is a man who just, his empire just went away. His legacy is now going to be birthed into something else. So, but again, there's so many manifestations of that. And that's what's beautiful about studying the decans and the tarot card associations, because it really can just mirror so many things. And it's fascinating and it's a beautiful practice.
So with this Mars in Scorpio squaring Pluto just like a couple days after the eclipse, I want to say it's like on Tuesday. Would you look at the decan and card associated with that Mars degree and the Pluto degree, or how does that work with like an aspect, a transit?
Yeah. You can. I feel like for my work, as far as like teaching stuff or making like videos about this stuff, I feel the luminaries are very, very powerful. There's just
Okay.
something about the moon phases that I think have been connected to the human consciousness and just our story of evolution, that
Okay.
that the Decan work really shines through the new moons and the full moons.
Okay.
But I think you can, I wouldn't make entire videos, for example, on just nitpicking little transits here and there and seeing, oh, is
Right.
this tarot card linking up with that one? But I
Right.
bet you if you had eyes to see and you looked close enough, you probably can see how those energies would come to be. But I also would like to say to everybody out there that decans don't overpower the signs themselves. So the archetype of Scorpio and Aquarius and what those two planets, Mars and Pluto, are going to do, they're going to be much louder. It's just the nuance of stuff can be a little sharper if you study the decan work involved. But yeah, so
No,
there's
that's a
that.
great
Yeah,
clarification. Yeah, definitely not something I've ever worked with. So that was part of what
sure.
I wanted to talk to you about on this in this conversation. So yeah, it seems like we've got a pretty dramatic end of the month, but hopefully we get a little bit of a break come October and November, and we can all kind of come back and integrate what and meditate on what's just transpired in this kind of chaotic time, and then we'll be better prepared as we go into 2026, and there'll be all sorts of stuff we'll talk about then.
Yeah,
So,
drink water, breathe, and stay calm and
stay
ground
calm.
yourself.
Yeah. Don't doom scroll, get off the social media. It's not
Yes,
doing any
yes.
good right now. Okay, well, Joe, thank you so much. And again, as a reminder, I'll put Joe's information below if you want to follow his YouTube channel. He has some great videos. And I will also put the information for my Chiron course, which is this Saturday. It's only $34. So it's actually not even a course, it's really more of a workshop because it's just a 1 day thing, and the recording will be available if you can't make it. So, Joe, thanks. It was lovely meeting you.
Yeah, same here.
All
Pleasure.
right. All right, everyone, there's a reason and a season for it all, and the cosmos is conspiring to help us. So until next time, stargazers.